simultaneously I could look back at the riverbank and see my body being pulled to the shore and seeing CPR being started. And I looked back on my body and sort of felt fondly toward it and thought, gee, you served me well. And it was then that I truly realized that I must actually be dead.
Wow. Do you, as a doctor, have a medical explanation for any of that?
Where medicine ends, God begins. That's the real answer. Because this was not a dream or a hallucination, and it wasn't the result of a dying brain. This was more real than anything we experience here on Earth.
And now, having been through it, do you have any fear of your own death?
Oh, absolutely not. I wouldn't hasten it, but I am looking forward to going back when it's the right time.
Wow.
I have no fear.
Okay, so I like that one for a few reasons. Reason number one, when Megyn Kelly is like, so did you think you were dying? Part of me wanted her to just be like, I don't know, Megyn, I was underwater for 15 minutes. Like, what do you think? You know what I mean? It's like...
Well, after having listened to her story and her approach to it, not surprised at all that she didn't respond that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But you know what I mean? It's just like, it's just a silly question. I know she had to ask it, but like, it's just such a silly question.
She's in a kayak, and I'm, a very comfortable person on the ocean. I did have an experience when I was little when I was almost drowned in a boat, but I've always loved boats. I love the ocean. And I have a friend who asks me all the time if I want to go kayaking. And I have to tell you, I won't get in a kayak. They scare the hell out of me.
I won't either.
No, there's just something about a kayak that I'm like mortally afraid of.
Yeah.
I don't want to go near one. They just look like a death trap.
Yes.
So I give the doctor a lot of credit that she even got in a kayak to start with. And for those of you that are kayaking enthusiasts, more power to you.
Yeah, God bless you.
Yeah, you would not catch it. Amelia jumps out of airplanes, but she's not going to get in a kayak.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Now, the other two things. The first I want to say is that something happened to her that is extremely common, and it is the most unexplainable part of the near-death experience. And that is people are able to watch their bodies from above, watch what is happening in the room they're in, and watch what is happening in other rooms. It's like the out-of-body experience. A lot of people say, like how she said, I just looked back at my body. I saw myself being, she didn't say herself, she said my body, being pulled up onto the shore and people trying to revive me and things like that. So that is extremely, extremely common. And there are a lot of stories about people being operated on who die, and they say they will be able, when they come back to life, they will be able to say what their wife and children in the next room over were talking about. They'll be able to say, I saw so and such walk through that door down the hallway, which is, it's incredible. I can't think of any way how they would know that otherwise.
Super sensory hearing, but even that doesn't make any sense.
I know.
Have you ever had one of those out-of-body floating experiences?
I don't think I've had a real one. I do a lot of meditation, a lot, and I used to do so much more. I used to meditate for hours on end, and I don't think I've had a real one. Our grandmother had one, and I was present for it.
Yeah?
Yes. It was on Easter. It was probably, I think, about 3 years before she passed away. She had dementia. We were all on the couch. Like, with my mom, I always call it, like, people, like, go away, kind of. You know, like, my mom has Alzheimer's. So it's like they'll be there, and then they still don't know what's going on, but all of a sudden it's like you just look at them and like they are not there.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So it's like all of a sudden I looked at her grandma and she was not there. And all of a sudden she like, her eyes perked up and she just turned to me. I was sitting next to her. She goes, has it ever happened to you that all of a sudden you're just in the corner of the room staring down, watching everyone talk, and you just can't get back to your body? And I was like, no, Grandma, but did that just happen to you? And she was like, yeah. And my mom was like, oh, that just means you're close to God. Like, that's okay.
Your mom's the best.
She's the best. So, yeah, that happened. Has that happened to you?
Okay. Yeah.
That's what happened.
It'll just be stuff like laying in bed and all of a sudden floating. Floating out the window. And like I can look back and see my body laying there still. It hasn't happened in years, but
That's interesting.
when I was a teenager, it would happen fairly often.
Did you ever watch the movie Insidious?
No.
Great movie. The first one, but that's what it's about. It's about astral projection.
Which I suggest that we do an episode about.
We can do an episode on astral projection. I love astral projection.
So, yeah, it's like a light, it's almost like a happy feeling. Because when it's happened to me, I do not have any sort of worry about what's going on. Like, I know that my body is fine where it is. And it's like my mind needs to go somewhere else and it needs to go check something.
So what you said at the top of the show is you don't believe when that guy said he felt he was going to like another world or another realm, something like that. And you said you don't think that's possible. You just think it's a higher level of consciousness within our brain, right?
Yep.
But then how do you think that relates to your experience of an outer body experience?
I don't think that it could be measured with a scientific instrument. And that was really my point with him. That whatever was going on, it's just happening on a different level of consciousness.
Right. But how I interpreted what you were saying at the top of the show, and maybe you didn't, and so I was just asking for clarification, was that you felt it was just something going on in the chemicals of your brain that we can't detect.
Yes.
But what I would think, what you just talked about, astral projection, is you physically, your soul leaving your body and you being able to look back at the body while the soul moves around separately.
I don't know that I would call it my soul leaving my body, but it's definitely my consciousness was leaving.
But don't you think those two are the same thing?
No.
How would you differentiate
I
those
don't know
two?
how I would differentiate them, but I don't know. I don't think that they're the same thing, no.
Because to me, I
feel like my soul is a completely unconscious part of my being. Whereas my consciousness and my thought processes are not connected to it.
So, as I understand it, you're saying your thoughts as a physical aspect of your body, correct?
Okay, I'll let you go with this for a sec. Go ahead.
Right. So, you say soul is, I don't know if you're trying to say you don't believe in it or it's just.
No, I definitely believe that I have a soul.
Okay.
But that it's not tethered to my consciousness, that they're independent parts of me.
Okay. So what I would think that would mean is you have the soul and then your consciousness would be part of your physical body.
Hopefully Amelia cuts out the really long pause that I'm taking to think about this. I think that I could best describe it as I don't think that either part is connected to my physical body. I feel like my soul at this point resides in my body, but it's not connected to it. Whereas my consciousness can, or in the past, has been able to leave both my physical body and my soul behind and go and look for something else.
So you think there are these three different components in us?
In me, yes. I can't speak for everyone else, though.
Well, presumably you're not the only one with them.
Presumably, but I don't want to speak for anyone else. Some people, I think, would say that their soul...
You don't think they have souls or they're not conscious?
Well, I think that some people would probably say that they're the same thing. Their soul and their consciousness are the same thing.
I am one of those people.
Okay, yes. And that's fine. In me, I think that there's the three different pieces.
Okay. Yeah, I look at it, I mean, I feel kind of like what you're saying before, like we have different levels of kind of consciousness. But I would think... like an out-of-body experience, as I have researched them, I personally feel it is the soul leaving. Okay. Same with the near-death experiences. Like you have the physical body, and then I feel it is your soul going somewhere else. And then, come right back in. Not your time yet. And there are no concrete answers to any of this.
Right. No, I'm just trying to think about, because like I said, it's been a long time, and I never really put like a lot of thought into it. I feel like if my soul had left my body, I would not feel safe. It would not be protected. Does that make sense? That like it would be
I don't know which part you're talking about not being protected.
my soul.
Okay.
That it needs to be able to stay in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And like my physical body protects it
Mm-hmm.
from bad things happening to it. Does that make sense? Like if my soul had been projected out,
Mm-hmm.
then negative things out there in the world could have grabbed onto it.
Got to see that movie Insidious.
No, I don't. I don't think I do.
So the whole premise of Insidious 1. And that's interesting. And thank you for clarifying a little more on that.
I'm sorry I hadn't put a lot of thought into it beforehand and I couldn't.
Well,
I
hey,
couldn't make
that's why near-death experiences are great. They make you think. You got to think about all this stuff.
Couldn't be articulate about it.
I love them. That's why I love them. You got to think. I love to think.
So there were a couple of things in there that she talked about that really kind of resonated with me. And the first was that she talked about when her soul, or whatever she was calling it, broke free of the water, that there were all of those other souls there that she had known forever.
Yes.
And had known her forever.
Yes.
And that just to me is the most beautiful idea.
Yes.
Because somewhere along the line in my life, I heard the idea that there's really like a limited number of souls in the universe and that we all keep like recycling with each other.
Yes. Reincarnation.
Well, and as part of
Yep.
the reincarnation, but we're always seeking out the same souls that we already knew.
Yep.
So like you and I might be cousins this time, but we might have been brother and sister last time.
Mhm.
We could have been husband and wife.
Yep.
We like one of us could have been the dog. Like, so that just made me really happy that she had that particular experience of all of like her people were there.
Yes.
And I think that that's one of the things that if there has to be something in an afterlife, would be really phenomenal to know that all my people are going to be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So something that we're not going to look at in the clips that we're playing today, I think we have one more. I don't think it mentions it, but something that the majority of people who experience near-death experiences, even people who say they've met Christ or come at it from a Christian perspective, the majority of them come back saying they believe in reincarnation. That same idea of meeting all those souls you've known forever. So that's the same thing, which I find fascinating. And I also find it fascinating because earlier this week, I went to go see John Edwards, who's a very famous medium.
Oh, aren't you fancy?
I was fancy. Thank you to my brother. He got me tickets. It was very nice. It's for my birthday. It took a while, but I got it.
Who'd you take with you?
He got it for me and Lauren.
Oh, very nice.
Lauren.
Because you didn't take your podcast co-host with you.
Well, it was for my birthday, and he got it for me and Lauren because Lauren's best friend tragically was hit by a car. And so, yes, so she's always, her and I do medium events a lot because I try to connect with someone and she tries to connect with her friend. So that's why we did it.
Did you get connected with?
We did not. There were like 500 people. He didn't read everyone.
Oh.
One of the things he said was that reincarnation absolutely is a thing. And that one thing that concerned him when he was younger was, well, when I die, these people who I want to see, is it going to be like, oh, you missed them. They're back down there now as someone else. And he said that it takes a while for like you're in
To recycle.
somewhere. Yeah. Before you come back. We talk about a lot in certain aspects of Reiki, the ideas of choosing your body, choosing your family, those kinds of things, choosing what lessons you're going to do, and you have your spirit guides or whatever. I know I'm sounding really woo-woo to some people right now, but I hope a few of you are still with me, a few of the 7. And so it's interesting. It's so interesting. That's why I love this stuff, because it just makes you think. It's fascinating to me. I'm so intrigued and interested about what else is out there. You know what I mean? What is after this? What is the purpose of this? Why are we here?
I saw a thing really recently. It was probably like a meme on Instagram or something, but it was saying, imagine if when people, they're dying, they talk about, going into the light. And imagine if the going into the light is actually the birthing process in the next room. And so there isn't like that purgatory state that people are hanging out and waiting before their soul is recycled. But maybe it's a matter of when you go off into the light, you're immediately reborn. And would that explain a little bit about the ghosts that we usually talk about on this podcast somehow didn't make it to the light?
Maybe.